Sure.
be starting at 9 as well, right? Or something.
Maybe.
What is it? It must be hockey camp, I'm guessing. Probably. Because they're done school now. Yeah. I kind of, I forget that, like, in Ontario, we didn't finish school until the third week of June. Like this week. So I find it so different here.
Grad students are told at 45. Undergrad.
Here they give you 10 minutes between quiz times. It's probably half hour.
Just 15.
Great. You have your
Right. Yeah, it does.
timer set and all that.
I saw that one when I came in. I noticed that one.
Okay. Great. Great. Your timer is set and everything's good. Everything's cool. Really sweet.
I think we've got the
Andy, you read my email by now, huh? Okay, I sent you one last night. I had to defer to my senior colleague. Betsy, you mentioned Judy Kuipers yesterday. She was chancellor when you came here. Lovely lady, very well liked. And she's retired in California now, isn't she? Yeah, very well liked. Very nice, but tough when she had to be, but in a nice way. Tough love it is. Do you miss California, your hometown? Because I'm from New York, and it's all, is it still home to you, California? Because New York is still home to me. What city did you grow up in? I remember many years ago, I was at a conference at Stanford. I feel like doing that. 1 mile palm drive getting on it. Such a beautiful blue sky. Yeah. Palm trees in the winter. This is college. They must be good.
They retired UW-La.
I mean, I'm sure it was
I recognize one down.
Andy met that was the hat still here.
Yeah, see, in New York at one time, if you were middle class, you could afford food. Nothing fancy, because those days were gone.
The things you find out when you're advising students, right?
Do you have any connections to New York City? Because I was born and raised in Brooklyn. And I never lost the accent. It was 40 years. I can go back today. I hope California rebounds. I remember the Beach Boy days in California. I don't know if
Don't
they'll
have
get
any
back.
other way to get a hold of us.
But at one time,
But email.
it was supposed to be LA and San Francisco if you were young. And you were over the Golden Gate Bridge many times on some clear days. Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that this morning, or yesterday.
Yeah, we are.
Cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I should have given you that. But I mean, food is pretty expensive.
Yeah. Cues.
And then do you have access? There we go. Okay, very good. Okay.
Thank you. And I'll give you pages when we. We're good. I'm pretty sure Alan's going to make it into the documentary. That would be a little bit too rich to leave out.
All right. Welcome. We are now back on the record for a hearing on dismissal charges in the matter of Professor Joseph Gow before the Active Hearing Committee. This hearing is being audio recorded in accordance with personnel rules. Today is June 20th, 2024. The time is 9:17 a.m. We're meeting in the Omni Center in Onalaska, Wisconsin. Just a reminder that the committee expects that all in attendance will be respectful of the hearing process, and we want to make sure that we are able to do our job, so make sure that you are quiet and keep your cell phones on silent and all of those kinds of things that we discussed yesterday. Do any of the parties have any questions or concerns before we continue, or committee members? Good. Okay. So the university administration concluded its presentation yesterday, correct?
Correct. The one thing that I will let you know, just for scheduling purposes, is that the university plans to present a rebuttal witness, the chief information officer, David Kim, who can clarify that the printer log indicates a November print date, not a January print date, because I know that the report that the expert presented was a little confusing in how it was drafted. I suspect.
And that was discussed yesterday.
That was discussed yesterday, and so
Okay.
David is available and has looked at the printer logs and can verify the November print date.
Okay, and that will go against your time, so that's.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do that, okay. Do you want to do that right away, or we'll do it after?
I think
as
it would be
part of the
a rebuttal witness at this
Okay.
point, because
All
we
right.
didn't have him on our witness list.
Okay. So we'll start then with Professor Gow's presentation, and then you can also bring any witnesses that you want to bring.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, all. We want to start with our first witness and only witness is the interim chancellor, Betsy Morgan. So we'll pick up where we left off yesterday. Thank you.
Good morning.
Hi. So let's begin. In your testimony yesterday, you indicated the UW system hired the Hush Blackwell law firm, and you are not aware of what that firm is being paid to provide their services. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct.
Were you aware that Hush Blackwell asked me to come to one of their offices in Chicago, Minneapolis, or Madison for a 3-hour interview that would be recorded?
I knew that you'd been asked to be interviewed. I don't remember the specifics.
Were you interviewed by Hush Blackwell?
I was not.
Okay. Were you aware that I would want to have an attorney present, and I was waiting for the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression to provide one?
I knew that you had the right to have somebody with you, and you had indicated that you were trying to secure an attorney.
And if we could show, please, Professor Deason, page start with 139, please. And this is exhibit. It's the actual. It's the collection of exhibits associated with the report. Now, I guess we're going to need to blow up that type if you can, please. It's. I don't know about others. Yeah, that's good. Okay. And if we can see, this is Monday, January 22nd. Interview request, and this is my email to the Hush Blackwell people, and as you can see, I do acknowledge there that FIRE will secure an attorney for me soon. If we can scroll down a little further, a little too far, please. Yeah. In order to help your investigation move forward, I'm attaching a report of the book publishing royalties my wife and I received during the years our books have been for sale on Amazon.com. As you'll see, there was never a year in which we received over $1,000, the threshold for reporting on my annual statements of economic interest, and therefore, I didn't need to report on it, and so on. And then I asked for a written transcript of the virtual meeting that we had on December 20th with the UW System Deputy Human Resources Director Kelly Cook, UW System Deputy General Counsel Jennifer Sloan Lattis, to make sure that what I had told them in that meeting, that I wasn't making any mistakes and so on. And so you can see this email. I don't know whether it was shared with you at the time.
I'm sorry, I don't recall, but I knew that you were trying to secure an attorney, yes.
Okay, and if, Professor Deason, you could please scroll up. Yeah, these things are listed in reverse order in these documents. And so this is the email from the Hush Blackwell people. We acknowledge receipt of the book, and we have been informed no written transcript of the meeting. We'd like to schedule the interview and so on. And then if we can scroll up further, thank you, Haley and Ann. Those are the lawyers for acknowledging receipt. I hope you find it useful. Because there's no transcript of the meeting, I'll be grateful if you please provide a copy of the recording of the meeting and scroll up further. We don't have it. Reach out to the Office of General Counsel. Please scroll again. Thanks. Until I secure an attorney, I will be corresponding directly about this UWS Chapter 4 process solely with UWL Chancellor Betsy Morgan, and that was on Monday the 29th. And I did send you an email to that effect. So you can appreciate I was in dialogue with the investigators, was trying to cooperate with them, but I had not yet got an attorney from fire and was waiting to do that. And then did I provide the Amazon report detailing revenue from our books to you to demonstrate I did not violate the requirement to report outside income greater than $1,000 per year?
You did.
Okay. So if we could please move to Exhibit 8, which is called Amazon Kindle Account Authorization. And I'm not sure what conversations you had with the Hush Blackwell people.
I had no conversations with the Hush Blackwell people.
Okay, so you didn't know about this release?
I'm sorry, that's not accurate. In the original, I had a detail meeting about what the process looked like. I never discussed any details with them.
Okay, so you've never seen this?
I only saw it when you provided it as evidence.
Okay, yeah, and if we can just shrink that down a little bit, please, so we could get, yeah, that'll work, yeah. So this is a document that actually they wanted Carmen to sign that would give them access to her Amazon account because that was where we were receiving book royalties. And do you want to just please read the paragraph there?
I don't think this has much to do with me. I'll read it if you'd like.
Yeah, just, I mean.
I blank hereby authorize you to release the following records and documents generated in connection with the above referenced Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing account, user registration data, comma, records, logs of payments, comma, subscriptions, comma, and tips, comma, tax forms, and any other financial records pertaining to my account from January 1st, 2012 through February 29th, 2024.
So that's a 12-year period getting full access to somebody's account. I don't know about you, but I would be reluctant to grant that. What would you have done?
I have absolutely no idea what I would have done. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I can't.
And do you find it a little unusual that the first book was published in 2016? They're going 4 years earlier, and I mean, it's a 12-year period.
I have never been an investigator. I've never been involved with an investigation like this until now. I have no idea what the standards are.
So could you understand why we were reluctant to sign that document?
I have no comment on this.
Okay. In the email I sent to you on February 8th, I provided the Amazon report to you. Did I also offer to respond to Hush Blackwell questions in writing while I was waiting to be assigned an attorney from fire?
I recall an email where you indicated you'd do it in writing. I don't remember if that was the exact date, but certainly there was an interaction, yes.
If we could see Exhibit 7, please.
Okay, so February 8th, yes.
I think it goes up, yeah. That's because this is in response to your email. Thank you for writing Betsy to update me about your investigation into President Rothman's complaint about the statements of economic interest I filed from 2007 to 2023, and I give you the report, and then I regret that you do not have the patience to wait until I have secured legal representation before concluding your investigation. I would very much like to participate in it. Therefore, I'd appreciate receiving any questions you have about my statements of economic interest in writing. I will answer them in writing. And did you respond to this email?
I did not.
You did not, okay. And the date on the completed Hush-Blackwell investigative report is March 14th, 2024. Is that correct?
Yes.
If we could see Exhibit 6, please. And that one's an email following up from FIRE, and the date on that is Wednesday, March 20th. So that would be 6 days after Hush-Blackwell made their report, correct?
What did you tell me the date was for the Hush? Yeah, March
The 14th, yeah.
Yes.
And as we'll see here, this is from Anne-Marie Tamburo, and she is the person who was my contact at FIRE. Hi, Joe. Thank you so much for your patience in waiting for me to get back to you. I've exhausted all the different avenues at my disposal to find you an attorney and have unfortunately come up short. I'm really sorry I wasn't able to find someone, but if in the meantime any other attorneys have approached you with an interest in representation, or if you have anyone in mind with experience in this area, I am more than willing to entertain suggestions. Additionally, my offer of a FIRE advocacy letter stands. If that's something you are still interested in, I'm there. Or if there are any updated deadlines I should be aware of, please let me know and I can take those into account. Again, I really thank you for your patience and apologize for the frustration this has caused. I hope to hear from you soon. You wouldn't have seen this email, but surely I have been saying all along I was waiting to get an attorney from FIRE. I provided the information that I could provide, and I was not failing to cooperate with this investigation.
As we covered yesterday, I don't see it that way. I do see it as failure to cooperate. We have, when other faculty have been under Chapter 4 proceedings, they have either used their own funds to secure an attorney, or they bring somebody other than that. You were on full paid leave for the entire time, and you had time to secure an alternative to FIRE should that not have worked out. And there was a fair amount, like you talked about, this has been a long arc, and so to move this along, we were hoping still to get, for instance, to this hearing before the end of the semester in the same ways that you were, when the faculty was still on contract, but that wasn't going to happen with that kind of timeline.
Have you ever hired an attorney?
I had a divorce attorney, yes.
Yeah, and they get several $100s an hour. So there's a big difference between me having to pay for an attorney and having a great advocacy organization say we'll provide one at no cost.
I completely understand that.
Would be understandable that I would be waiting to get the pro bono.
I understand it, and I'm telling you, faculty in other positions have had to use their own funds to secure attorneys when they're under investigation, if that's what they choose to do.
Given all the dialogue that we've shown here and cooperation under highly unusual circumstances, how can you say that I refused to cooperate with the investigators and you?
I think as we showed yesterday, there were multiple opportunities for you to meet with them. The fact that you wished to have a pro bono attorney is really your choice. On my side, it was you have been given an opportunity and been told directly to meet with these investigators over a 6-week period.
And do you recall if I was ever told they're concluding their investigation?
I don't know.
I wasn't.
Okay.
So this came as quite a surprise. Now let's turn our attention to another matter. And in your testimony yesterday, you said you first learned of our books and videos in a meeting with UW System President Jay Rothman on Thursday, December 21st, 2023. Now, that was 6 days before the Board of Regents fired me as chancellor, and President Rothman simultaneously filed his complaint to have me fired from my tenured faculty position as well. Am I understanding that correctly?
Not exactly. When I spoke to President Rothman, what he told me is there was going to be a personnel meeting regarding you with the regents. He said it had to do with adult content. There was no detail that I recall, and that all he needed to know was if they needed an interim chancellor, would I be willing to serve? That was the extent of the conversation.
So that was the
I
only...
did not learn any details about the content until after the regents meeting.
But was that just a phone call from the president? Or?
Correct, phone call.
Okay, so there was no other meeting with him or anybody else from UW System?
No other meeting. It was a phone call to see if I was willing to serve, should there be a need.
So you were, I just want to make sure I understand. You received a phone call from the president of the system, and he said, we have an issue with the chancellor.
Yes,
Can you serve as interim chancellor
if needed.
if needed? And the rest of it,
None of the detail.
you didn't know any of the detail?
No.
So when did you first learn the detail?
I think when the rest of the nation found out.
So that would be like
The 28th, I think. when the-
28th, 27th of December?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I have that clear. So there was no meeting to talk about, what are we going to do about this?
No.
Okay, let's go to Exhibit 5, please. And that's called Responsive Records Redacted. And if you can get to page 29, please. And this, I don't know whether we're going to need, yeah, it's over on the side. And this is information that was obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request. And we have some text messaging there.
Right.
And we see that it's Friday, December 22nd. If Professor Deason, if you could just, start there. Thank you very much. Friday, December 22nd at 4:04 p.m. So this would have been the day after your phone call.
Yeah.
And this is your texting.
Oh, absolutely. It was, I got a call from Quinn Williams at the General Counsel Office saying that they needed to secure your, all of your computers, and I connected him with Alan Hill.
So when you earlier said you didn't have any other meetings with anybody from System, that you forgot this, or?
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't consider this a meeting. What about the content of your dismissal? They needed me to help arrange for it to get the materials. I didn't consider it a meeting. I'm sorry.
So Quinn Williams, the general counsel of the UW System.
Correct.
How did he communicate with you?
He called me.
He called you. And what did he tell you in the
He
phone
said
call?
we need to secure the computers from Joe's office and potentially from their home. And I said, how do we do that kind of thing? And he says, traditionally, my memory is that he said, I asked, how do we do this? And because I was at home, I wasn't in the campus at all after that date. And he said, well, it'd be helpful to have the police chief. And I texted Alan to make sure he was around and connected the two. Had nothing to do with it after that.
So he said we need to get the computers not only from my office, but from my home?
That's, my memory is he just said your computers, Joe. That's what I remember. And so I knew that Alan was going to be involved in the materials from your office. And I think at the time there was some conversation about whether or not you were physically in town, but I don't remember anything beyond that.
Well, let's see what the text reveal. So that's you texting to our chief of police and the general counsel for the UW System on that Friday. So if we could start up, scroll back up, please. Yeah, great. This is you. Good news. Our outstanding police chief, Alan Hill, is in town. I'm connecting the two of you Quinn Williams and Alan Hill. And then if you scroll, please. And Quinn, please send, I guess maybe that's a typo, please send appropriate Office of General Counsel instruction to remove the laptop to his email or whatever is the normal route. So I think I know what that means, but.
I think Quinn had said to me that my memory is that Chief Hill had said he's not going to do anything until he has appropriate authorization, and that was about getting the authorization to his email.
And I'm curious, it says to remove the laptop. Why was that the focus?
What I remember is them saying that they needed your computers. That's all. I do not remember anything beyond that.
Well, that says remove the laptop.
Yeah,
It doesn't say remove the computers.
Okay. Well then, they were talking about your various forms of computer-related materials.
Okay, and if we can scroll further, please. And then we have Quinn Williams, the General Counsel, saying, thanks, Betsy. And then we keep going. Okay, there, now we're back to your text.
Yes.
Alan, that'd be Chief Hill. As soon as the laptop is secured, and we're not 100% sure that it's in his office, but if it's in his office, it needs to be FedEx to the following. So again, the focus is on the laptop. There is a real desire. Can you explain that? I mean, it doesn't say get his desktop computer, which would obviously be in the office.
Joe, I have to tell you, I don't know whether you have a desktop or a laptop. It could have been me being, casual with the idea of laptop being computer, because mine's a laptop, so I tend to use that as the generic. But I do not recall any distinction between types of computers in the conversation.
Okay. And let's continue on the chain, please. Okay, now, if you scroll back up, please. There's a black space. That was redacted. If it's in its office, it needs to be FedEx to the following. We don't have, and I know why they do that. They
It's
don't-
somebody's address,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And then you said we can charge the shipping back to University of Wisconsin at a future date. So this is clearly a UW system operation. This is not UWL.
My memory was that it shouldn't be Chief Hill who had to pay for FedEx, and then we needed to be able to repay him for FedEx on what I think was getting close to a weekend. And so we talked about, I don't remember a distinct conversation about it, but clearly it must have been that we would make sure it got paid for, and it sounds like I must have asked Quinn who would pay for it, and he must have said University of Wisconsin.
And scroll, please. No worries. And there we have the actual FedEx receipt. And I think Chief Hill, being a very good, thorough police officer, did take material to FedEx and got it out. And as you'll see there, recipient address, what does that say?
It's Quinn Williams' address.
And then what is the address?
You want me to read it out loud?
If you would, please.
I'd like to object to that. That's a piece of information that should have been redacted from this. I'm sure it was overlooked because we shouldn't be reading out the general counsel's personal, home address in a public hearing.
Okay, yeah, it's his home address. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we can move on then. Scheduled delivery date 12/26, and then Chief says 2 MacBooks, iPad, and an iMac. Now that must have been a little surprising, wasn't it? That's a lot of computers that would be in the office.
I have no comment on that. A lot of us have different. If you came to mine, you'd get a Surface Pro and an iPad.
Well, one of them's Carmen's.
Okay.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Chief Hill. And then if we can move a little further, please. There's that receipt again, and they did a little redundancy. Welcome, and there we are.
Okay.
So, quite a skullduggery. I don't know what to call it, but
I would
you
certainly
had
not,
the.
I would certainly not call it a skullduggery, but, I was serving at that, point to help them secure what they asked to secure. I mean, again, Chief Hill indicated that if he had the proper clearance, that would be an appropriate role.
So clearly, my wife, Carmen, and I did not turn in our computers to UWL.
Okay.
Rather, Chief Hill retrieved them from my office on Friday, December 22nd. Why then did you state in the charges, not once, but twice, that we deleted information from the computers before we turned them in?
I believe that the question is about the timing on the deletion, rather than turning, if you're asking me about the phrase "turn them in" versus when they were collected, I understand your point.
And can you appreciate that doesn't make us look very good?
Okay.
When you knew the computers, we didn't have them. I mean, I just fathom that. And do you know, is there any evidence that we deleted information?
All I have is the same investigative report that everybody has,
Which,
everybody in this room.
by their own admission, is flawed.
I think that we'll hear about that later on when we're able to do the counter.
So you and UW's General Counsel, Quinn Williams, ordered Chief Hill to obtain the computers, and this is about 4 p.m. on Friday, December 2nd, 5 days before the Regents fired me, and 5 days before President Rothman filed his complaint. And we know from the receipt, Chief Hill got those computers to FedEx about 5 o'clock that afternoon. Why was it so urgent to have the computers removed and sent on that day?
I can't answer that, Joe. That was a directive from Quinn.
And do you know why the computers were sent to his home address?
That I do remember. There was a conversation because it was a holiday weekend that there was a concern that normally my understanding is it would go straight to the investigators, but I don't think they had secured investigators, and there would be no one to receive them at the system office, and that's why he made that decision.
So do you know who was going to do, I mean, the FTI, we heard that consultant, he worked with forensic images. Who was doing the forensic images?
I don't know.
So you haven't read any of the report? It says in the report.
Well, Joe, it says a lot in the report, but, my understanding was that System had secured an investigative team, and that was going to involve, Hush Blackwell was going to coordinate the entire thing. And I know that there was some conversation about not having our own IT people, except to help facilitate, that we were all helping to facilitate.
So if we could go to page 27, which will be up above the text exchange. And if you go down just to the bottom of that page, let's see when we start. Yeah, back up, please. Okay, just that, yeah, thanks. I know this is challenging to do in real time. This is an email that was part of these records from Eric Thompson, who works for a firm called Data Narrow, and that is, in fact, the firm that Mr. Bowie indicated did the forensic imaging. And as you'll see, that's dated Saturday, December 23rd. So that's the day after you got these computers seized. yes, please have them ship the devices to this address, and please reply with tracking information. So this firm had been retained. It seems a little unusual, doesn't it, that the computers went to the home of the general counsel rather than the firm?
I just can't speak to it. I had nothing to do with those details.
Okay, and then I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but just you scroll up one more, please. And that fills it in. Should arrive tomorrow. Now, this is Wednesday, December 27th, after the holidays. But I guess I keep coming back to what was the urgency here? I mean, this was moved at lightning speed, and people were doing things before they even knew what was going to happen.
Joe, I just can't speak to it. It wasn't, my job was to help System Legal to get what they needed. That was my job. I can't speak to what
So
their thought process
you were just doing your job, and yep.
At that point, that's what I was doing.
And as you can see, the subject there is Rush, Forensic Image Collection. What was the urgency? You don't know, do you?
I could only conjecture, and I don't think that's appropriate.
Do you think it's possible that the UW system leadership and attorneys were hoping to find damning evidence to enable the Board of Regents to fire me completely on December 27th without needing to go through any of this Chapter 4 process?
I have no idea, but I don't believe that they can do that. My understanding of Chapter 4 is that if we're dismissing a tenured faculty, this is the process we use. But I am not a scholar on this.
And that's all I have for the witness.
Are you guys cold? Should we tell Ryan?
All right, so you are
Oh, I was
dismissed.
looking to see if they had questions.
Do you
I'm
else
happy
have
to be
any
dismissed.
questions for any from the committee? Okay, thank you. Do you have other things to present?
I think we're ready. I mean, I guess if there's this interest in revisiting the FTI report, you certainly, then we'll see whether we have questions
Sure.
on
Yeah,
that.
and I think that's fair. So if you wanted to bring the witness about the report, is that possible?
It's not the draft.
Right, yeah. To clarify that.
It's only to clarify the printer log issue, but I don't think procedurally it would be appropriate to, bring up David at this point because he's technically a rebuttal witness, and so that evidence will be introduced solely for the purpose of establishing that date. We're not opening up a whole new line of, computer questioning. He was not a primary witness. So it will literally be a question of, does a computer log demonstrate that the printing occurred on this date? And that will be the only question. And any sort of cross should be limited, simply to perhaps how he got that document, et cetera, but not meandering, unrelated issues.
So I want to confirm that. So you're done presenting your case, and that was your witness. Okay. So we're going to enter the rebuttal phase by the university's side, and part of that rebuttal will be bringing then this person to clarify that. You'll have an opportunity to cross-examine that witness, but only focused on the information that he brings to clarify that. And then if you have any other rebuttal, you can do that. And then we'll end with closing.
Thank you. I'd like to call David Kim. Thank you for agreeing to help us, clarify some information here. Can you, for the record, can you please state your name and your job title?
Yes, it's David Kim. I'm the Chief Information Officer.
And what, can you just give a brief overview of the job duties that you perform?
As a Chief Information Officer, or in this? Yes. So
as a Chief Information
So I primarily oversee the Information Technology Services Department.
And in terms of the the role that you performed here, there is a reference related to Dr. Gow's iMac computer, which was his desktop, and there is an indication. The report that was ultimately drafted by our expert has some ambiguity. Are you familiar with the X-Hamster document that has been referenced related to this matter?
Very little, but yes.
And as part of your job duties, did you obtain printer logs, related to that document?
Yes. For clarification, as far as the computers are concerned, that was not my part, but the small part was just to get the print logs from the printer itself.
And can you tell me what date the printer log indicates the X-Hamster document was printed?
For clarification, there was no specific document requested of us. The only thing that was presented to us was a date in which that was printed and the person or the account. What we did discover in the logs was the X-Hamster on that specific day of 11/27, around the same time that was requested of us.
Thank you.
So cross-examination.
So you played no role in you just said, seizing the computers and analyzing them.
No, sir.
And why do you think that was?
I have to object to that question. That's not related. Whether or not why he may have been involved in analyzing is not related to that specific document.
Well, of course it is. He's involved in it now. Why couldn't he be involved in it then?
That's an argument you're making towards what appears to be a conspiracy, theory around alleged potential improper handling of computers, and that's not directly related to this document.
Oh, okay.
Well,
thank you. Yeah, we'll
for the
move
cross,
on.
we do want to just ask about this specific, really small thing.
I don't want to be a conspiracy person, so yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you have some other time. Do you have any other? Okay. Wow. You mean we're done? Okay. So each side now will have 10 minutes for closing. So, we're not done.
Can we take a 5-minute break or 5 to 10 minute
Absolutely.
break before
Let's
jumping there?
Let's do that. I don't even need that, but yeah, we can do a 10-minute recess for people to prepare those. So let's do 10:10. We'll reconvene.
Thank you.
10 minutes for the university side.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Galbraith and members of the Active Hearing Committee. I would like to start by thanking all of you for being here and engaging in this process, particularly during the summer when you're off contract. I know that providing service of this nature is not an easy undertaking, and the work that you are contributing is greatly appreciated. Under Safransky versus Personnel Board, just cause exists when a tenured governmental employee's conduct can reasonably said to have a tendency to impair the employee's performance of duties of the employee's position or the efficiency of the group with which the employee works, or is so substantial, oft repeated, flagrant, or serious that the employee's retention in service will undermine the public confidence in the employer's service. The university has provided evidence that establishes just cause to terminate Dr. Gow's employment. Dr. Gow has violated university policy and has undermined the trust the university once had in him. More troubling is that he just doesn't seem to get it. I will not exhaustively restate all of the evidence that has been presented here today, or in the last 2 days really, but I will cover some highlights. There's no question that Dr. Gow engaged in insubordination. He received multiple clear directives from Dr. Morgan to cooperate with investigators and with the investigative process, and failed to do so. His refusals have harmed this process. Making a decision to terminate anyone is a very serious undertaking, and the institution, the employee, and the committee should have the best available information. We do not. At times during this proceeding, Dr. Gow has repeatedly used uses phrases along the lines of, "Would it surprise you to know?" before making a particular assertion. Had Dr. Gow cooperated with the investigation, there would be no need for surprises here. It is reasonable for the committee to infer that Dr. Gow refused to participate in the investigation because doing so would not benefit him. Interviews with investigators would establish a record, and he would be locked into statements, making it much more difficult to introduce new surprises here. In addition, he was paid approximately $50,000 for the spring semester and failed to perform his only assignment. The fact that he is a tenured faculty member should not excuse this conduct. Credible evidence supports the conclusion that Dr. Gow violated the university's acceptable computer use policy. Login credentials for pornographic websites were recovered from the laptop computers, and the X-Hamster form was found on the desktop. November of 2023 is in alignment with a period in which Dr. Gow, was making his adult content more publicly accessible, so that is also alignment with the facts here. Dr. Gow did not maintain a complete separation between his hobby and his workplace. It is unfortunate that Dr. Gow has advanced a conspiracy theory to try to distract from the report's findings, particularly given his prior role as chancellor. That is a very serious allegation, and no evidence has been introduced by him to support it. Moreover, had Dr. Gow participated in the investigation, the university would have been able to directly address the forensic findings and incorporate his responses into the report. Dr. Gow is engaged in a range of unethical and potentially illegal conduct. He had a business relationship with Ms. Hartley when he brought her to campus in 2018 and failed to disclose this information. He now asserts that monogamy with benefits and married with benefits are not really autobiographical, and that statements such as "all events are described are true" are part of a nonfiction novel literary style, and that the words do not mean exactly what they explicitly say. However, he provided zero clarification regarding what liberties may have been taken, what is truthful in there, what is not truthful. Notwithstanding the modern critiques of the ethics surrounding so-called nonfiction novels, I have a few comments on this. It would be reasonable for the committee to find that the statements in Dr. Gow's books are more credible than his statements here. As a practical matter, even if the nonfiction novel assertion were true, how would any member of the public know this? The books are still damaging the university's interests as a result of Dr. Gow's actions. Finally, I respectfully direct the committee to Exhibit UWL-107E, which is a video copy of the interview that Dr. Gow participated in for the Sex Party webcast show. From approximately minute 4 through minute 6, Dr. Gow admits to illegal conduct that mirrors one of the encounters described in Monogamy with Benefits. So at least for that encounter, it would appear that was accurately related in the book, because there's certainly no warning given on that podcast that any liberties are being taken with facts. As I said yesterday, it is Dr. Gow's repeated poor judgment that has led to this point, and the concern has been amplified during this hearing. Dr. Morgan has filed charges against Dr. Gow because of inappropriate conduct, conduct that is damaging to the integrity of the university, insubordinate conduct, and the erosion of trust, conduct that overlaps during the time he was chancellor. We established that when Dr. Gow brought Nina Hartley to campus in 2018, a decision he was reprimanded for, he had a pre-existing business relationship with her. They'd filmed adult content together. This was not disclosed at the time and has only recently come to light. During this hearing, Dr. Gow clearly stated he does not believe that he had a business relationship with Ms. Hartley or any conflict of interest. By any reasonable measure, he is wrong. During questioning yesterday, Dr. Gow would not even admit that during the time he was chancellor that he routinely directed employees to perform various tasks. I'm not even sure how it would be possible to be chancellor and not delegate and assign people to do tasks. Dr. Gow sparred with Dan Shanan and was able to admit that his refusal to participate in the investigation was in any way inappropriate or insubordinate. Again, he was wrong and argued more about insubordination today. He went back and forth with Dr. Morgan, unable to seemingly even consider some of her perspectives stemming from her work as interim chancellor, cleaning up his mess. Through articles, Dr. Gow has clearly indicated that he would be open to discussing his hobby with students if he returns to the classroom, and he has also indicated that he has gained great media experience from being interviewed during this process and that those experiences would be relevant to the classroom. I asked the committee to seriously consider whether Dr. Gow would listen to his department chair or provost if they directed him not to raise these topics in the classroom. He won't listen to Dr. Morgan when she is in her interim chancellor role. Why would he follow her directives once she is provost? Why would he listen to his department chair? Regardless of Dr. Gow's questionable recharacterization of the books accurately foreshadowed what would happen if his hobby became public. His conduct was premeditated. The university has been surprised during this hearing at the deflection from Dr. Gow on a variety of issues. Ray Cross's and select regents' reactions to the 2018 Nita Hartley matter is what made the matter worse, not Dr. Gow's conduct. His decision to publicize his hobby last fall isn't the issue. It's the way in which President Rothman and the Board of Regents terminated his chancellor position. During his opening statement, he chastised the university for submitting exhibits with explicit photos, even though those images came from Dr. Gow's public-facing loyal fans page. Even when his damaging comments have been directly quoted by the media rather than summarized, he has asserted that the media got it wrong, not him. Dr. Gow has expressed great concern about the amount of money that has gone towards investigating his inappropriate conduct, but has expressed zero concern over his own conduct, ignoring the fact that but for his conduct, the expenditure of any funds would have been completely unnecessary. Dr. Morgan provided ample testimony demonstrating what has only become more clear during this hearing. Dr. Gow just doesn't get it or is unable to acknowledge that his conduct has been harmful to this campus community and a distraction from its core mission. I will reiterate that Dr. Gow is an intelligent man, a former chancellor and currently a faculty member in the Communication Studies Department. However, it is time for his relationship with UW-La Crosse, his employment relationship at least, to come to an end and allow the campus to refocus on its core mission. Dr. Gow is free to make and publish adult content and engage in other activities, but the university can reasonably conclude that doing so is at odds with the university's public purpose and best interests. The university believes that if Dr. Gow remains, he will continue to distract from the university's mission. His presence will be disruptive to the Communications Studies Department and will undermine public trust in the university. The university respectfully requests that this committee recommend that Dr. Gow be terminated for cause.
Thank you. Professor Gow?
In my opening statement, I acknowledged that, yes, my wife, Carmen Wilson, and I created a series of sexually explicit videos and books. We did so on our own time, using our own money. And as I've shown, we did not intend to profit from sharing those videos and books with other people. Most importantly, we certainly did not want to force anyone to read or view our books or videos. So I want to thank the prosecution in this case for not forcing anyone here to view any images they might find objectionable or offensive. I also want to remind everyone here that the Wisconsin state statute that guides this hearing, UWS Chapter 4, says a tenured faculty member has all the constitutional rights and privileges enjoyed by any other U.S. citizen and can only be dismissed for just cause. The statute further states that the burden of proof for establishing just cause is on the administration. As I've said, I hope you'll all agree that we're fortunate to live in a state and a country that affords us these protections. Now that the prosecution has presented its case, I think it's clear that they have not proved just cause. They have led us in several unrelated directions, but ultimately they have taken us nowhere. They have alleged Carmen and I caused reputational harm to UWL, but they have not proved it. In particular, Interim Chancellor Morgan has shared that wherever she goes, people approach her to share their concerns, that alumni have expressed their dismay, and some potential donors have indicated they will no longer support the university. We have no doubt these things have happened. However, at the same time, we have had just as many students, alumni, faculty, and staff tell us they find what the university is doing to us to be an egregious overreaction. My point is that the responses are not unanimous. But what is indisputable is that UW-La Crosse has not experienced substantive negative effects. As we've heard, enrollment is stable, the budget remains balanced, and donations continue to flow in. They have alleged, but not proved, insubordination. They have attempted to draw a parallel between my situation and a 2020 case involving a UW Stout faculty member fired for not wearing a mask. The UW Stout case occurred during the height of the COVID epidemic, and as we all remember, at that time, mask wearing was seen as a measure that was required to literally save lives. And this was a faculty member that was going into a class saying, "I'm not going to wear a mask." Very different situation. And also, the UW Stout faculty member was on the tenure track. He had not yet earned tenure. The administration is also using their own subjective definition of what it means to participate in the investigation. As I have shown, as I waited to receive an attorney from the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, I provided to both the investigators and Interim Chancellor Morgan a thorough report of the Amazon book royalties my wife and I had received. I also offered to answer any of the investigators' questions in writing while I was waiting for a fire attorney. And I declined to sign an overly broad request from the investigators to be granted unlimited access to my wife's Amazon accounts for a 12-year period. So to say I refuse to cooperate with the investigators is simply not true. The administration, the prosecution, also has alleged but not proved that my wife and I violated information technology use policies and viewed pornographic material on our university-issued computers. The FTI consultant, Mr. Bowie, reported that we had identical automatic login information on both our laptop computers for several sexually explicit websites. This is an extraordinary finding, as Carmen was issued her laptop in the fall of 2019 as a resource to use while working on behalf of the UWL Foundation, work that never materialized. And so while she opened her laptop computer one time, she did not ever use it, and it sat in its original box in my office until Chief Hill retrieved it on December 22nd, 2023. We never created those login accounts, and while we cannot definitely prove that, the following statements are factual. The adult websites listed do not require an individual to create an account and log into that account to view adult content. Accounts with login information are only required to post content. As noted in the evidentiary documentation, and during this hearing, we do not deny using our home personal computers, and I want to emphasize that, our home personal computers, to post material on Xhamster, Pornhub, LoyalFans, and OnlyFans. But we never used UWL-issued computers to visit or post anything on those 4 sites or any of the other 5 listed in the FTI report. So we would have no reason to create those accounts. We have no idea how those accounts became associated with our computers, but I can assure you we did not create them. The other evidence that we used university computers to visit pornographic sites is email in my spam folder. I hope you'll agree that no one should be penalized for junk mail, spam, they did not request. Again, the only evidence cited that we viewed adult content is circumstantial and suspect. The forensic experts found no browsing history of visits to sites containing pornographic material, and I want to remind you of that. There has never been any evidence that we visited sites containing pornographic material. I reiterate that one reason, the one that Occam's razor claims is most likely to be true, is that we simply never browsed adult content on our university computers. Ultimately, however, the most egregious assertion made against us is the claim that we deleted information from our computers prior to returning them to the university. An assertion listed not once, but twice in the charges lodged against me. As we have shown, this is an outright lie. We did not return our computers because they were taken from my office on Friday, December 22nd, under the direction of Universities of Wisconsin General Counsel Quinn Williams and UWL Interim Chancellor Betsy Morgan. Most importantly, we didn't delete any information from the computers before those computers were shipped to the home address of the General Counsel, launching a very unusual chain of custody for the devices. Now that you have learned the truth, we feel confident you will have no choice but to decline to participate in the administration's conspiracy to take away my tenure. After all, tenure is based on the quality of one's teaching, research, and service. This fruitless exercise has nothing to do with that, and likely will cause many people to raise the question, do universities of Wisconsin faculty, staff, and students have the right to engage in free speech in their personal lives, particularly on contemporary social media? I hope that you will vote in favor of that essential freedom rather than help to suppress it. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to defend ourselves and present our case.
All right, thank you. So I now declare the open portion of this hearing concluded. It is 10:30 a.m. Thank you for your attention and participation in this process. We're going to have a 10-minute recess to clear the room, and then after that, the committee will entertain a motion to enter closed session to deliberate on this matter. It will then draft a written report of the findings and recommendations and provide a copy of that report to both the Chancellor and to Professor Gow as soon as practicable. That's the language consistent with UWS 4. And so I thank you for being here, and we will reconvene at about 10 minutes, so about 10:40-ish or so. So again, have a good rest of your day.
You want to get Cal? Okay.
going to go into closed session. No, so they're going to the deliberation, and they are responsible, as the chair said, for providing a written report